my total Tubular gamers? We're back with another video. Let's get into it. Come on, let's go. Come on.
Well, it's spooky season, you know what that means. It's time to talk about some horror games. Now, I am a huge horror game fanatic. I absolutely love horror video games, and I'm really just a big horror connoisseur in general. And so today, we're going to be talking about some of the very best horror games of them all. Yep, it's time for a dedicated 10 out of 10 horror games video. Now, it's been a bit since I did one of these videos, so let me remind everybody, a 10 out of 10 from Totally Tubular Jonathan does not mean it is a perfect game. No video game is perfect. Every single one of these games, I can point out a flaw or two with them. Some kind of negative issue, problem, etc. No, what a 10 out of 10 means for me is that it's a must-play title. It gets my highest recommendation, where if you can breathe air, I think you should check the game out. What I'm trying to say is it's a masterpiece, it's the cream of the crop. So with that in mind, we'll be talking about some horror video games that in my opinion are must-play titles, where I think most people can come together and agree that yeah, these are some pretty damn good games. This list is in no particular order, and if you're still confused, you can always comment and I'll try to clear things up. Speaking of, it'd be great if you could comment some of your 10 out of 10 horror games. Genuinely, I would love to know. Also, a like, share, subscribing, hyping, whatever the fuck that means, and general support is just really appreciated. Like, seriously, thank you all so very much for sticking with me throughout the years. I really do appreciate it. So you absolutely knew for a list like this, Resident Evil was going to be somewhere. Which one are we starting with? We're starting with Resident Evil 4, and I'm going to go with the remake. The Resident Evil 4 remake is genuinely one of my favorite games of all time. Like, it is absolutely, without a doubt in my mind, a 10 out of 10 experience. The game is just absolutely phenomenal. The original game was also kind of goated, but this remake, it's somehow even better. Sure, it is actually quite different from the original in a number of key areas, but it still very much is the Resident Evil 4 experience about Leon going to South America to rescue the president's daughter and all of the chaos and mayhem that ensues. But when it comes to the gameplay, man, it really is a step up from the original. Not only can you move and shoot, but there's even more depth to the sandbox that already was RE4's combat, and it has genuinely maybe the best combat of any horror game. There's just so much to it, and these encounters are designed so well. The level design is incredible, the enemies and their placement is really well done, but also what Leon can do is really great as well. Like, Leon's a total baller in this game. He's out here suplexing grandmas, doing these giant roundhouse kicks, and he's using weapons like they're toys. Man is just a certified badass in every sense of the word. Nobody is safe, not even those old ass grandmas. They're gonna get kicked in the fucking face, same as everybody else. And then you bring the new knife system into play, and oh yeah, things do start to get pretty crazy. There's tons of incredible set pieces, the pacing is better than ever, the story's pretty intriguing, the presentation is excellent, the game has plenty of scares to it, but it still has the occasional lighthearted moments. Certainly less than the original game, and it's a lot more dark and sinister in general, but I can really fuck with this. RE4 remake, oh yeah, it's just such a good experience, and I really think that everybody should try the Resident Evil 4 remake. So for this entry, I have one of the horror gaming titans with Silent Hill. Which Silent Hill? Well, I'm going with Silent Hill 2 and 3. Yep, we're going double creature feature out here, and I'm just including both of them for similar enough reasons. Both of these games are legendary horror games, some of the best of all time, and both are absolutely terrifying. And if you couldn't tell by now, I'm talking about the OG Silent Hill 2. While I love the remake, I'm always going to prefer the original. I think it's because I played it first and I just prefer the pacing of the original. Both of these games have absolutely incredible atmospheres and stories to them. Silent Hill 2, the story is pretty goated at this point. It's just one of the best stories of any video game. Silent Hill 3, yeah, the story's not as good, but it's pretty sinister and interesting, and I still think it is a great story overall, and I kind of like how it connects back to the original game. I will say though, both of these games just have goated soundtracks. Like, the music is unbelievably good in both of these games, and when it comes to the gameplay, it is classic survival horror, baby. Yeah, there's fixed camera angles, but you don't actually have to play with tank controls if you don't want to, so it's cool that the option is there, and it's some of the best survival horror gameplay you'll ever find. Yeah, it's not the most difficult, and they do give you plenty of resources for the most part, but you can still get fucked in this game. Both of these games got great senses of exploration, the atmosphere is really tense and foreboding, they both have really strong puzzles, there's even the puzzle difficulty, which I think is super cool, and they have easily some of the best pacing of any video games. I think that these are both masterpieces, and if you're somebody that's ever been curious about Silent Hill, play these two games. You won't regret it. Yeah, they might be a bit older and they might be a bit dated in a few aspects, but I still think that they really hold up, especially nowadays. You could go play the Silent Hill 2 remake. I think it's a perfectly good substitute for the original, but I'm always going to recommend the original just a little bit more. Either way, can't go wrong with these two. You really can't. So here we have the original Fear, First Encounter Assault Recon. Now this might not come to mind immediately when you think of the best horror games, but when you see it, oh, you absolutely know that this really is one of the best horror games ever, and it's one of the best first-person shooters ever. I know the series might be pretty forgotten nowadays, but in the mid to late 2000s, Fear absolutely was the shit, and all these years later, it still is the shit, and it's not only incredibly scary, but it has some of the best action you'll find really of any first-person shooter. Like, it is such a fun game, but it also has a really tense, scary atmosphere to it as well. The game sees this super secret military force going in to investigate some kind of paranormal phenomenon where there's this creepy little girl, and that's all I'm really gonna say. The game actually does have plenty of scares to it, it has plenty of creepy moments, and it's more on the psychological horror than the boo side of horror, where it's more disturbing and unsettling versus a bunch of jump scares trying to make you startled or rattled in some way, and I think it actually creates a really tense atmosphere that really hasn't been recreated in the series since, outside of those pretty awesome expansions. When it comes to the gunplay though, oh, it is so good in this game. The combat is excellent in Fear 1, where you can slow down time and just absolutely fuck shit up. The guns feel amazing all these years later, the game controls really well, and the AI aren't dumb as rocks. They'll actually use tactics and they're decently intelligent. They'll flank you, they'll throw grenades, they actually have a few strategies to them, and fighting them, it's always a really engaging time. Like, the combat is just so enjoyable in this game. The game is also pretty dark for the most part, and that darkness helps the game age even better, but when you do actually see it, it still looks alright. The lighting is pretty decent here also. It was just one of those experiences where from start to finish, I think it's pretty incredible. The pacing is excellent, there's plenty of memorable moments and set pieces, it gets under your skin, and it's one of the most unforgettable horror games of them all. I absolutely recommend it. And so here we have Until Dawn. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that disagree with me here, but hear me out for a second. Obviously, Until Dawn in this style of game is not for everybody. There are plenty of people that want more interactivity, general gameplay, or action in their games. That's totally fine. I think there's room for both, and I actually really appreciate what Until Dawn is doing, where it's more of an adventure game where you're interacting with a movie, there's quick time events, and you get to make some choices here and there. And when it comes to this style of gameplay and horror games, I don't think it's ever been done better than Until Dawn. Yeah, there's been a number of games similar to Until Dawn. There was The Quarry, there's the many Dark Pictures games, and there's even a few other games that aren't even by Supermassive that are kind of similar, but all of them pale in comparison to Until Dawn. Until Dawn is really the studio's magnum opus, and it's one of the scariest games I've ever played. It was also the first game I played in this style, and it just really hit home for me. The game obviously looks absolutely incredible, even all these years later, but it still has a really scary, unsettling atmosphere and story to it, where it's about a bunch of teenagers going up to a cabin in the woods essentially, and a bunch of scary shit happens. It's actually a pretty decent story here as well. Yeah, the characters aren't the most likable, but they're not really designed to be either. They're kind of designed to be assholes where you don't really care about them, but as the night progresses, you actually become a bit more attached to them and you want to see all of them get out of there. But all of them might not get out of there if you fuck up a few times. Is the gameplay the most involved? Absolutely not. There's barely any gameplay here, but I think the game absolutely succeeds when it comes to what it focuses on, and that's why I've got it on a list like this. Again, it's not for everybody, but I've always really enjoyed Until Dawn. If you've ever been curious about this style of game, at this point, I don't really think it's ever going to get any better than Until Dawn. Like, they've tried so many other times and none of them hit like this game did. This game actually hit different, and I know there was a remake not that long ago, but I got no experience with it, got no interest to have any experience with it. The original game is pretty freaking awesome. and it scared me shitless one too many times. I am now less full of shit because of Until Dawn. Until Dawn, until I have more shit in my pants, then I'm gonna lose it to this game. So here's one you probably expected with the Dead Space remake. Now Dead Space 2, and now the remake of the first game are all pretty excellent games. They're some of the best survival horror games of them all, and it really felt like the next step from Resident Evil 4. But of what I just mentioned, I really think the remake is the best one. The original game was already legendary thanks to its incredible atmosphere, excellent sound design, and top-notch combat. However, the remake really ramps things up even further. It looks absolutely incredible, like this is a stunning game despite how dark it is. But they also left pretty much everything intact from the original game. It's not a one-to-one remake like the MGS3 one, but it's about as close as it gets. Isaac can now speak, meaning that the story is a bit more involved, and that's totally fine with me. And a section here or there has been tweaked to make it a bit more user-friendly and modernized, which again is fine with me, but overall it's just a really great experience. The pacing is great, the atmosphere is very tense, the combat is actually incredibly interesting, and it's really never been repeated all these years later where you have to cut the limbs off, and it's just one of those games that has no problem getting under your skin, really making you feel uncomfortable, and all these years later, yeah, Dead Space still gets to me. On top of this, it's incredibly replayable, it has so many memorable moments to it, and the ending is pretty freaking iconic. It has some of the most interesting combat you'll ever find in a video game, and it's aged incredibly well. I mean, the original game, honestly, it aged really well, and I still don't really think we needed a remake, but hey, we've got it, and I think the remake is really solid, and if you're somebody that likes survival horror games and you haven't tried Dead Space for some reason, well, no better time to do it than now. And so here we have a certified hood classic with Left 4 Dead 2, and you might be going, really? Left 4 Dead 2? That's not really a horror game, why you got it on a list like this? Oh, I absolutely think Left 4 Dead 2 is a horror game. Sure, the entire game is fully cooperative, and it's got plenty of silly, goofy, lighthearted moments to it, but you tell me that you played through all the maps of Left 4 Dead 2 and you didn't get scared at least once. I don't know about that one, I might have just spotted a liar. The game's always had a decently tense atmosphere, but things really do ramp up plenty of times in these levels, like when a horde shows up and you just get absolutely swarmed, or when you're just walking around and all of a sudden you just get straight jumped by one of the game's special type zombies and you need somebody to come help you. I mean, this is like one of the scariest things in the game, where you're just walking around and yeah, they just fucking got you and you need somebody to help you. You can't do anything. So yeah, I think I've made my point. It's scary. Outside of that, oh, Left 4 Dead 2 is an absolute banger. Like, everybody loves Left 4 Dead 2. It's got amazing combat. It has some of the best levels of any first-person shooter. There's more replayability in this game than like 99% of other games. People are still playing it nowadays. There's so much replayability to it. There's a few different ways to play. They brought in all the maps and characters from Left 4 Dead 1. There's pretty much just endless content when it comes to Left 4 Dead 2, and it's all such high quality. Like, it's all so enjoyable whether you're by yourself or you're with others. You're pretty much guaranteed to have a good time. There's more than just playing through the levels cooperatively though. There's also the versus mode, there's the survival mode, and yeah, this is really fun also. I've honestly put way too much time into versus for Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. Like, versus has always been just kind of goated, and all these years later, man, this shit still hits. I remember they tried to kind of recreate it in like Killing Floor 1 or 2 or whatever. Nah, it did not hit like how Left 4 Dead 2's hits. The characters are wildly likable, memorable, and have so many iconic lines and moments to them. Like, all of the Left 4 Dead characters are legit iconic. Valve is just really good with their characters. This game in general is just iconic to the late 2000s. There's a reason people have been wanting Left 4 Dead 3 for so long. It's because Left 4 Dead 2 really was that great. And if somehow in this current year you have not tried Left 4 Dead 2 and you play on PC, man, go check this shit out. So here we have another absolute classic with Fatal Frame 2. Fatal Frame 2 really is one of the most beloved survival horror games of all time for a reason. Like, the game is pretty incredible even all these years later. It's one of the most unsettling, disturbing, and frankly shocking games that I have ever played. The plot is about these two sisters going to this mysterious abandoned village and just trying to get the hell out of there. It's an incredibly thought-provoking plot that actually has a lot of symbolism, themes, and just some really dark overtones to it, like the story, setting, and just how unsettling legit every aspect of this game is makes it an all-timer right there. But when it comes to the gameplay, oh, it's that classic survival horror gameplay you know and love with the fixed camera angles, no tank controls, and managing your resources. But Fatal Frame has always had a pretty interesting take on it where you have to use the camera obscura to take pictures of the ghosts to defeat them. Well, that was an awkward stutter. You know what, fuck it, we're leaving it in, we're doing this live. Yeah, you take pictures of the ghosts in order to defeat them, and you really will have to manage all of your film. The game doesn't just give you a ton of great film to use, you actually gotta be a bit conservative with this shit. The game also has some very well designed levels and areas to it. It's easy to navigate for the most part, and it's usually pretty clear where you're supposed to go next. I think the pacing is very strong, the puzzles aren't stupidly difficult, you're not gonna be banging your head against the wall, you're not gonna wanna throw a brick through my window, and you're not going to be so mad that you want to go destroy the latest TGI Fridays, unless you're me. And it all comes together for a really unforgettable experience that I probably will never forget. They're also remaking the game now. I'm really curious to see where that's going. They actually remade it back on the Wii, but now they're remaking the remake. This will be really interesting. I'm curious to see if they'll be able to recapture the atmosphere and the magic that was the original Fatal Frame 2. If you're somebody that likes survival horror games, especially classic survival horror games, it doesn't get much better than this. It also doesn't have the word resident or hill in it. And no, we ain't talking about King of the Hill. Anyway, let's just move on. So here we have one that I talked about not that long ago with Dying Light 1. Like I said at the beginning of the video, a 10 out of 10 is not a perfect game, it just means it gets my highest recommendation. Dying Light 1 has problems. All of the games I've talked about today have problems. Dying Light 1's story is easily the weakest aspect of it. The story, it just kinda sucks. There's really no two ways about it. And it's got some janky moments here and there, but outside of that, man, Dying Light 1 is pretty freaking fantastic, and I feel like it's still underrated all these years later. It has, in my opinion, like the best parkour of any video game. The Beast has really good parkour, but the OG just feels so good. I love how the game controls and feels all these years later. It's aged incredibly well, and that carries over to the combat as well, where it's mostly melee focused, and the melee weapons feel really nice. Do they feel better in other Dying Light games? Maybe, but it still feels pretty great here. I think there's a nice balance of melee weapons and guns. Guns are pretty powerful, but you're still going to want to use the melee weapons. I think the game actually is pretty solid when it comes to an RPG, where you're constantly getting better at either your parkouring or your melee combat or the car if you're playing the expansion. And then of course this is a horror game. Is the game scary? Oh hell yeah, it gets scary when the light dies, when it becomes nighttime. This just gives me straight anxiety. It is so fucking dark in this game, and the enemies will fuck you up. They will tear you to shreds real quick. During the day, the zombies are about as smart as anybody who goes into TGI Fridays willingly, but at night, man, oh man, they got a real kick to them. They got some fent or cocaine or some shit, because they will rip you apart. It can get pretty ridiculous and even punishing at times, but I think it really adds to the game's atmosphere. This whole game just has a mood and vibe to it that I feel like the series has really never been able to recapture. It's also got the really excellent expansion, and it still looks and feels nice even all these years later. Yeah, certain areas might be lacking in it, but the other stuff is so good and it really outweighs the negatives to the point where I would say that yeah, I really do give it my highest recommendation. Is this nostalgia talking at this point? It very well could be, but even nowadays, I still think the game is pretty excellent. So here we have a game, and it's Buckshot Roulette. So hear me out here. I don't think I've ever really talked about Buckshot Roulette on the channel. I absolutely love Buckshot Roulette. It's simple, it's weird as hell, and it's scary. Is it the most nuanced? Is it the most complex? Are you going to be there for hundreds of hours, if not dozens? No, no, and hell no. But shit, it's really good at what it does, and sometimes simplicity really is king. It really is about you just going up against this creepy face, or your friends if you're playing multiplayer, and trying to take them out with a buckshot, where it's essentially Russian roulette with a shotgun, where some shells are blanks and some are loaded, and every time you shoot somebody they get resuscitated back to life, but you can only do it so many times. The game will show you the order and what shells are what, and it's up to you to actually count the shells and figure out which ones are blanks and which ones are actually going to kill. But there's also a bunch of items that come into the mix that really actually change things up. And there genuinely is a fair amount of strategy to this. You could probably beat the single player in 30 minutes to an hour if you're pretty decent or you understand what's going on, or you just get lucky. But where this game really succeeds is the multiplayer. It just pops the fuck off in multiplayer, where everybody's strategizing, everybody's coming up with their own ways to take each other out, and then the game is still scary. Getting shot in the fucking face will never not be scary, and the game does a really good job at keeping it scary. It also has a pretty creepy atmosphere. The face is really scary, the sound effects are creepy, and the music just goes kind of hard in this game, and all of this creates a pretty unforgettable experience. Oh, and the best part, the game's like $2. Yeah, it costs like nothing, so even though you don't get, you know, dozens of hours of gameplay, it doesn't cost that, and I think it's got a really good bang for your buck. Ooh, get it? Get it? I made it funny. Like a few other games on this list, this game is not for everybody, but I think if you've played this one, you're probably gonna understand why it's on this list. It only tries to do one thing, but it does it really freaking well, to the point where I would give it my highest recommendation, and I think just about anybody can enjoy this one, if even for just a few minutes. And then to finish things off, we got the Resident Evil 2 remake. Yep, I thought I would start with an RE and end with an RE. When it comes to Resident Evil, my favorite two games and what I believe to be the best of the series really are Resident Evil 4 and 2, and the remakes are pretty fantastic. The Resident Evil 2 remake is not just one of the greatest horror games of all time, but one of the greatest games ever, and it's one of the greatest remakes, period. The original game is an absolute classic, and this remake doesn't make it obsolete. This remake, though, in my opinion, is better than the original game. Obviously, it's not with fixed camera angles or pre-rendered backgrounds, and it's a lot more modern in its controls, but it still retains the essence, the aura, the vibe, the mood from the original game, and then some. They made Mr. X so fucking scary in this game. He is a fucking menace. He is a nuisance in this game. He will sneak up on you and beat the shit out of you, and he will stalk you to the ends of earth. I swear he was not this ridiculous in the original. I love him. But there's more to the game than just him. There's the excellent level design, there's the A and B playthroughs where you play as Leon and Claire. Both of them have their own pros and cons, and both of them have some of the greatest puzzles of any video game. The puzzles are actually really solid, the levels are well designed, the combat feels really good, the guns do feel very good in this game. And the game has some of the best pacing you'll find of just any video game. Like, the pacing is really well done here, where it's constantly keeping things interesting, you're going to new environments, new things are happening, there's a bunch of set pieces. The game is stringing you along in a way that's not only incredibly natural, but it's also very exciting. Like, this is an exciting game, and it's going to keep you on the edge of your seat, especially if you still haven't played it all these years later. And even if you're a returning player, you already know how goated RE2 is. I love this game to pieces, like how I love a few other games on this list to pieces, and I really have no problem recommending it to everybody. Like, any type of gamer, I think, can enjoy Resident Evil 2. And it very easily gets my highest recommendation. But that's it for today's video. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I should have included some other horror games? Are you shocked that I included Dying Light and Buckshot Roulette or Fatal Frame or some of these other unconventional, less recognized games? Well, that's the code word for today, unconventional, because yeah, I thought a bit out of the box, and I think I have a pretty great selection of games here. But as always, I would love to know down below. With that, I'll see you all later. Stay safe, y'all. Bye-bye.